The third, and perhaps most devastating disturbance of natural order resulting from the cover-up of the murder of JFK is that our governmental agencies or departments no longer consider the will of the people to be their master's voice. All governmental entities were created to protect or be of service to the taxpayers who pay their salaries. Inverse to normal business cycles and perverse to economic principles, the Code of Washington ensures that the worse a governmental agency performs their mandated duties, the more they grow in size and budget. An honest and thorough investigation of any bureaucracy will reveal dismal performance levels and a continual pattern of disdain for the public's intelligence and well-being. Because he was an esteemed member of the insider circle and past president of the stock exchange, the SEC committed malfeasance and allowed Bernie Madoff to steal billions. The SEC was given numerous warnings and complaints that contained detailed calculations proving that fraud was being committed. Our taxpayer-supported Keystone Cops did absolutely nothing to enforce the law, nor did they protect individual investors. The resulting loss of over $50 billion ruined people's lives, and it added to the distress of our already weakened economy. No corresponding losses, sanctions, or penalties were levied against the SEC or its administrators. It is often hard to determine if the agency that is the subject of our next review is just a disobedient servant of the taxpayers or a shadow government in its own right. It has conducted domestic surveillance against American citizens, carried out foreign policy, and made alliances with other governments, hired out to international corporations, and waged war in neutral countries. The failures, misdeeds, and criminal acts committed by the CIA are documented, span decades, and just seem to be a part of the agency's DNA. The supporters, believers, and enablers of the CIA arrogantly proclaim that the agency is vital to our security because, don't you know, the world is a dangerous place. Yes, the world can be hazardous to Americans, but the CIA helped to make it that way. A thorough and honest investigation will reveal an institution that has silenced its critics and fostered support by creating problems and conflicts that only it can seem to see and therefore solve. The CIA is like an adult child that still lives with their mother and has never grown up, matured, or developed socially. The CIA was born out of war, and it continually seeks to maintain, duplicate, or recreate a maternal relationship with conflict and apocalypse. In other words, they try and make a war out of everything, And if you can't have a hot one, a cold one will do. Since Kennedy's assassination and the commencement of the cover-up, Washington has created at least 3 new cabinet-level agencies and bureaucracies. These new agencies are the Department of Energy, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and Homeland Security, each of them with budgets in the tens of billions of dollars. Each agency was designed and created to solve a specific problem. Needless to say, we have not won the war on drugs, and Homeland Security is just a patch job because some other agency didn't do their job. But let's don't dwell on the negative. Let's celebrate some success. The Department of Energy was created in 1979 in response to the first energy or oil crisis. 36 years later, we now have a worldwide oil glut or oversupply. Hey, it may have taken hundreds of billions of dollars, but congratulations, Department of Energy, you solved the problem. Or did they? With the energy crisis over, oil companies are cutting jobs by the tens of thousands. But I have yet to hear of the Department of Energy letting even one person go. So, once again, we have an example that the Code of Washington trumps and supersedes normal business cycles and all economic principles. The self-serving attitudes and punitive actions by all government departments can be logically linked and regarded as reverberations or aftershocks emanating from the epicenter of the assassination and cover-up. The negative forces generated by decades of unfulfilled justice have been exponentially amplified by the principle that we teach by example and learn by experience. Because of their position at the pinnacle of power in Washington, D.C., the FBI can be considered both star pupil and guest lecturer in the class of how to ignore one's duty, avoid responsibility, and be rewarded for it. The 2 greatest crimes in our history are the assassination of JFK and the vicious attack on our country and citizens on 9/11. The FBI has not solved the murder of JFK and does not ever intend to. Despite security alerts, evidence, and even impassioned pleas for action from some of its own agents, the FBI balked at considering bin Laden as a serious threat and did not even try to thwart the attacks. There were 3 separate, distinct, documented opportunities for the FBI to protect our families and friends from terrorists, and they failed due to malicious procrastination, turf wars, and Byzantine internal politics. In accordance with the inverse economic principles of Washington that reward failure, since 9/11 the FBI budget has increased every year. In summation, Kennedy's assassination, and more importantly, the cover-up, has encouraged and allowed everyone and everything in Washington to subscribe to and follow the example set by the FBI. Ever since its inception, J. Edgar Hoover's FBI has had one uppermost objective, and that is to preserve the agency's image and protect its turf first and foremost. The code or mantra of Washington has become, no matter what the cost in taxpayer dollars, no matter how long it takes, no matter the cost of personal integrity or even loss of human life, one must protect the turf of their own agency or bureaucracy. Concern for and attendance to the safety and well-being of the taxpayers that pay their salaries and whom they have sworn to serve and protect have been cast to the wind by governmental plans that are disguised as agencies or departments. Political power and economic profit in the form of bloated budgets is the driving force and only consideration for policy decisions and malfeasant procedures by our bureaucratic clans and elected political cartels. Our country was created by men with an insatiable desire for freedom and equality. The victory they won was enshrined in and preserved by the electoral process known as democracy or will of the people. Subsequent generations have had to either fight or endure daunting circumstances and threats to ensure democracy for the ages. It is now our turn for the will of the people to assert itself and stand against the torrent of lies and snarl of greed that now shackle our freedom and twists the laws of equality. Join the Free Hand for Truth Party to punish the guilty and preserve freedom for the innocent.